Day 34 started by reaching my truck and driving till the second house to the left, from where I took some water to fill up my bottle. On my way back to my car, I had to fight a fast-approaching Zed from the property on the other side of the fence. Then I drove toward the warehouse. On my way there, in the middle of the neighborhood, I noticed several new spawns. The first was near the beginning of a hedge on the right side. The second was in the middle of the road at the end of the neighborhood. After killing the fast-approaching one, I was able to loot a jawbone war axe from the previous victim. Time to do that, and I had to face another enemy. This one had a steel bar half for me to loot. At this point, I remembered that I forgot to check the second floor of the last property to the right. In front of its entrance, I had to kill a Zed. While as soon as I was inside the house, another one came downstairs to meet me. After killing him, it was time to loot. Immediately to the left at the end of the staircase, I found an alarm clock on the ground. I can use it in the future to lure a horde to a bomb location. After disabling its alarm, I also collected the headphones from the cabinet nearby. The next loot was in the drawer of the first bedroom, where I found 2 great books to read, while the last was in the master bedroom. Here in the left drawer, I found another piece of literature to add to my collection. At this point was time to go back to my vehicle. This led me to kill another Zed hiding near its trunk. Behind its location, I found another one in the middle of the road. Being close to the car trunk, I took this opportunity to unload in it all of the new loot I just found. Then I drove along the main road past the warehouse, only to stop at the entrance of the large parking lot. Here, one by one, I killed 7 zombies spread out around the area. The last one had a van key for me to loot. This allowed me to access the white vehicle nearby. Its battery and fuel was depleted. But on the other hand, from its seats, I got a paperclip and an adhesive tape. While from its trunk, I obtained a wrench. Moments later, I had to kill 2 extra Zeds to the northwest in order to check the blue dart. It had a key in the ignition, but as the previous vehicle, no fuel and no battery to use in order to take it with me. On the other hand, on the seats, I found a walkie-talkie and an adhesive tape, while from the glove box, I got myself a magazine, a lighter, and a CD. To finish, from the trunk I got a screwdriver and a sack. I was done looting and I had to address a newcomer to the west. Later I went to check the next dart nearby. This allowed me to find another walkie-talkie from one of the seats and a CD player from the glove box. There was nothing else in this vehicle. This is why I moved to the taxi to the northwest. This one has the key in the ignition, but again no usable battery and no fuel in it. Loot-wise, I found a lighter and 2 gums on the seats and a key ring. This last one had another vehicle key inside. Then I checked the glove box, where I found some alcohol wipes. To finish, from the trunk I obtained a regular and a lug wrench. I was done looting, therefore I signed the location of the 4 vehicles in the map. This way, when I'm ready to start my car collection, I would know where to find them. After that, it was time to drive till the bar at the margins of the city. I was pleased to deal with my welcome party made of 3 Zeds. One of them even had a magazine to loot. After that, I opened the right door in order to allow the first enemy to get out from the building. Then, guiding him toward the fence, I finished him once he climbed over. There was 2 extra banging on the other door I opened soon after. Then I tried to force them to climb over the fence, but one refused. Dodging the grab attack, I killed the smart one in time before addressing the dumb one. Finally, only nature noise was to be heard, and I started looting from a paring knife I found on the ground near the entrance. While in the hallway from the garbage bin, I obtained some scrap metal that can be used in metalworking, followed by a garbage bag. The last one had a needle and some junk food inside to loot. After removing the rotten food left inside, I picked up the bag. I took this opportunity to check my weight, and considering it was going down, I ate the just looted chocolate bar. This stopped the weight loss. At this point, it was time to check what I could find in the bar. In the alcohol and bar shelves, there was only some trash and the main loot was on the ground, where I found some rum, a glass of gin, 2 bags of chips, a bottle opener and a beer. I ate one bag of chips in order to start gaining weight. Moving to the kitchen, I found just an empty kettle and an empty mug in its containers, plus a fillet knife on the ground. Seconds after an intruder came to die. After that, I continued looting, and the next useful stuff was upstairs on the ground to the left from the staircase, where I found an empty saucepan. The bar section was looted, and it was left only to check the owner apartment, accessible from the left corner of the building. I started looting from the cabinet that was empty, but in front of it, on the ground, I found a tea bag and a magazine to collect. Then, in front of the couch, I found a wine bottle, and after that I picked up the television. Moving to the bedroom, in one of the drawers, I found 2 interesting pieces of literature to loot. Later, while reaching the kitchen, the owner came back home, only to die soon after. Finally, it was time to loot the kitchen, starting from the garbage bin, where I found some screws. A paperclip was to be found in one of the cupboards, followed by some yeast from the second and a paring knife from the third. The kitchen was done, and while leaving the apartment, I found some pepper near the staircase. After unloading the new loot in my car trunk, it was time to sign this location as looted. At this point, it was time to keep exploring. To do so, I drove back to the warehouse crossroad and used the side road connected to the highway. After the turn, I had to deal with a Zed blocking my way forward. Stuck in his back, I also found a hatchet in perfect condition. Then I moved my truck to the end of the metal fence and had to fight the group that started reaching my location. I killed the fast one while retreating toward the forest. Then I was a little bit overwhelmed. For this reason, I moved back to the metal fence and hopped over the smaller part of it. Then after killing the first, I missed the stomp, allowing the second to push me to the ground. After getting back on my feet, I ran to the other side of the fence. I was able to dodge all grab attacks, staying close to the fence and hitting 2 of them on the ground. After a few seconds, I was able to drop the one that managed to stand up and finish the others. Then on the other side of the fence, I killed the next one, and while waiting for more, I found my hat and glasses I lost falling down, so I could equip them back. Later 2 reached my location, and while I was able to deal with the first, the second had an opening to push me away. To save energy, I jumped over the fence and killed him as soon as he followed me. It was time to check the property. I started by opening the toilet. A Zed inside was able to surprise me, and he landed a hit while I was trying to run away. Luckily, my clothing layers was able to prevent an injury, and I punished him the next moment. Walking along the fence, I was able to aggro a solitary zombie, and closing the gate made him trip over. This gave me the perfect opportunity to one-shot him. A little bit further, I noticed another group of 4. Once 2 of them saw me, I retreated behind the fence where I defeated the first. Then near the light pole, I dealt with the second. After that, I was able to catch the attention of one that was sleeping in the building corner and had to hug one of the 2 passive one to make them chase me. Once I was back behind the fence, I smashed all 3 Zed's brains to smithereens. One of them had a gardening trowel for me to loot. Going back inside the property, I was met by a slow one near the light pole and another one near the garage's inner corner. Finally, it was time to loot the one that lost their doors. In the first, there was a few cardboard boxes. From the first, I obtained some matches, 2 hiking backpacks, and a flashlight. Checking the backpacks, I found a water bottle, a walkie-talkie, and a flashlight in the first, followed by a granola bar in the second. Back to boxes, I found a pair of rubber gloves, a half-mask respirator, a funnel, and 2 alcohol bottles in the second. In the third, I found a new fishing tool for Build 42 called Gaff Hook, not sure if it's already implemented. But in theory, this tool is used in real life for something similar to spear fishing from previous builds. Anyway, back to the loot. I found a magazine to improve my mood in the 4th, and some padded pads in perfect condition in the 5th. Those pants are the best for insulation and protection, but you cannot repair them with tailoring. Moving to the next garage, I found more boxes to loot. The first had some twine and 3 different pieces of literature, while the second had me stunned because it had a lot of entertainment and skill books. But most importantly, it had electrical level 1 that I will need to unlock hot wiring cars. Continuing looting the rest of the containers, I found the fishing volume 2 in the third box, 3 entertainment magazines in the fourth. In the fifth, I found a lot of loot, starting from a small knife, a rake head and 2 rakes, followed by a magazine that teaches how to craft some head clothing through the tailoring skill. The next magazine in this container was a duplicate of what I read a few days ago. Below there was a jar of eggplants and 1 of carrots. They are in stale condition, but I still can use them for cooking and have some empty jars to use in the future. After a gardening hoe, I found an empty jar, 2 cheesecloth and 3 extra skill books to loot. There was nothing else here, so I moved inside the next garage, where in the corner I found another treasure trove of skill books. After taking the one I didn't read yet, I checked the rest of containers, only to find an electronic scrap and 2 plastic pipes. Plastic pipes are not yet implemented, but I expect them to be used in future updates to connect sinks to water catchers. At this point, I was full of loot and the rest of garages was locked, so I went back to my car to unload what I obtained from this property. Once I was done, I defeated a Zed that tried to sneak on me. Later, I went back to check some other locations on the previous property I can search. This allowed me to enter inside a small shed to the northeast. On the ground, I found 3 books, 2 of which were level 1 stuff I can start reading when I have time. Plus, there was even a paperback in the shelf for me to loot. After that, I entered the warehouse to the south from here. I started looting the stuff lying on the ground. This allowed me to find an empty oxygen tank and a box of screws, followed by a steel bar, some nuts and bolts, a gardening trowel, an empty bucket, and a bolt cutter. Closer to the bottom crates, I found also a steel sheet and a screwdriver. From those crates, I obtained some welding rods from the first, a welding torch from the second, a welding mask and a bolt cutter from the third, a small punch and chisel set from the fourth, some twine and a box of screws from the fifth, a long stick from the sixth, some paint and a medium handle from the seventh, a propane bottle, an iron piece and iron bar quarter from the eighth, a stake and burlap piece from the 9th, a hand drill from the 10th, a pocket of seeds to grow carrots with some pliers in the 11th, a scythe, an hacksaw and an empty bucket from the 12th. By the way, the scythe is a new tool in Build 42 and allows to quickly clear multiple tiles from the grass. Anyway, moving to the 13th crate, I found an iron bar half and a draw plate to loot, followed by a steel sheet from the 14th. While in the 15th, I found 2 seeds pockets, one to farm radish and the other for hops. Plus it had another scythe, a measuring tape, and a good book to read. Finally, I was done with the storage room, and using a door I reached the office, where on the ground I found a gardening trowel. Then on the table, there was a radio to pick up, but unfortunately its battery was depleted. The last loot was in one of the shelves behind, and it was a pair of safety goggles with a claw hammer. At this point, I left the warehouse and accessed the other room from outside. This allowed me to find on the ground a steel rod, a steel bar quarter and an iron pipe. To finish this location, I was able to find a small saw, a measuring tape and some calipers, also on the ground. At this point, it was time to sign the warehouse as looted. Considering the amount of loot in the garages, I expect that there will be more, but I need a sledgehammer to access it. For this reason, I signed the location, the way that I can remember to get back here when I find one. At this point, it was too late and my truck was full to continue. Therefore, it was time to drive all the way back to base. I was too tired to fight, and to my delight, I didn't find any enemy on my way back home. Once in my kitchen, I ate some junk food to start gaining again weight and went to bed.